I have been on a journey to be someone. And along the way, I learned the secrets. It's your friends, the people you choose to spend time with. My life, health, and wealth have been changed forever by the people around me. And now it's time for you to meet my friends. This is the Be Someone podcast with Michael Hong. Welcome back to the Be Someone podcast. I'm here today with my friend Alex.
What's going on, Michael? Great to be here, man.
Yeah. So Alex and I got to know each other. We're involved in a mastermind in recent months, and we got to know each other. And I said, "Man, self-storage. Let's have you on the show. Let's get it going." So let's jump right in, Alex. What is your company? What do you guys do?
Yeah, so right now, my business looks very different today than it did 19 years ago, but self-storage. So I am focused on the self-storage asset class. My belief, and we can talk about that, is that if what you're looking for is time freedom, it's the best asset class. And this is coming from somebody who I've done a lot of wholesaling and fix and flip and creative finance. Pretty much spent the first 14 years of my career in the single family space. And about 4.5 years ago, I really transitioned and just focused on owning, operating, and managing self-storage. And then we coach people on how to buy their first facility.
Yeah, that's awesome. We were talking a little bit about that in that mastermind that we're in, and I was just like, "Man, we got to get you on the podcast so we can hear more about that."
Yeah, man.
So let's rewind. You've been in real estate a long time, man. I did not know you were in the game that long. So let's talk about your first deal. Do you remember your first deal?
Absolutely. Never forget it. I still remember the address, dude. Yeah, my first deal, I'll kind of give you a little bit of the backstory, but I'll keep it brief, is I was, out when I left my corporate job, I went backpacking around Europe for 3.5 months with a buddy of mine. And it was when I was at an internet cafe in Ibiza that a friend of mine sent me an email inviting me to a marketing for deals boot camp. And this was October of 2005 that it was happening in Atlanta, Georgia. And so I went to this boot camp, spent $997, which at the time may have been 997,000. I just didn't have much money. And brother, I literally got home and I plucked out a pre-foreclosure letter. I went to Kinko's at the time. For people that don't know what that is, it's like FedEx Kinko's now. And I literally made 300 photocopies. And I specifically remember doing my first pre-foreclosure direct mail campaign that you would see the 3 black holes from the photocopy because I plucked it out of the binder. I'm not even kidding you. And I remember sitting at my parents' kitchen table, handwriting envelopes and stuffing these things, licking the stamps, putting it on. And then I started getting calls of people that were in pre-foreclosure. And I remember feeling like such an imposter from the perspective of like, here I am, I've never done a real estate deal. I didn't own my home. And yet these people are calling me, asking me what to do because they're in pre-foreclosure. They're behind on payments. So about 2.5, almost 3 months later, ended up closing on my first deal, which was a short sale. And we made, between myself and a partner, we made $44,000, which was almost the equivalent of what I was making in my corporate job. So I think we closed on that deal January of 2006. So yeah, man,
Wow.
that was my first deal.
And so you wholesaled it?
Correct. Yeah, we found the
Awesome.
buyer. We ended up negotiating the short sale with the loss mitigation department, which is just a fancy term for the department in the bank that works on short sales. And I remember literally we had a script in this manual that I got at the boot camp. And I remember like talking to a loss mitigation rep and just going off with a script. And they would ask me a question. I'm like thinking to myself, that's not the next question in the script, and scrambling and fumbling. Like it was a disaster. But man, I learned a ton. That's one of the biggest learning lessons from that first deal is I realized early on in my journey, Michael, that you learn so much more by just doing and implementing than you ever will by just being in content and consumption mode. So
That
yeah, man, that was my first deal.
I strongly agree with that with
Yeah.
you, Alex. It was like I took tons of classes, and it's like you just need to get out there and do it. Have a network of people or have a mentor that can walk you through the way, and just get out there and do it, because you can study all you want, and it's like until something hits you in the face, you don't really know what it's like.
Yeah.
And your first deal was a short sell. That's incredible, man. I
Yeah.
know people who've done deals for years and have never dealt with a short sell. So what a heck of a first deal. I'm sure you've had
Well,
some easier deals since then.
oh, dude, 100%. Well, it was a blessing and it was a curse because it was a blessing because it was a complicated deal. And I was like, man, if I could do this, like there's got to be easier deals. And I was right. it was also a curse because I incorrectly assumed that every deal going forward was going to be 40,000 plus in net profits. And I had a rude awakening, right? I think my first year in the business, I may have done 12, 13 deals. And that was my biggest one for the year, my very first deal.
Wow.
So yeah.
Wow, a short sale for your first deal. And for those of you who don't know, a short sale is when the owner is trying to sell the house for less than what the mortgage is on it.
Mhm.
And so you have to work with the bank in order to get them to approve essentially a sale where the lender loses money, where the lender sells for less than what the debt on the property is, which can take months. It can take many, many months. It could take 6 months. Some cases it could take a year or more. Just depends
That's
on the
right.
bank. Yeah, and depends on the situation on the house.
That's right.
And so, tell us what your business looks like nowadays.
Yeah, man. So like I said, about 4.5 years ago, I started focusing on self storage. I just recently sold two storage facilities in Mississippi, about 80,000 net rentable square feet. And I still own and operate one facility in Amelia Islands. And then I have equity in a small deal that I wholesaled along with two other partners in Canton, Ohio. So that's one of the cool things about storage is like my very first storage deal was a wholesale because it kind of fit outside of my buy box, but we were able to wholesale it. We made 99,000 bucks on that deal, which was split three ways, and we kept 15% equity in that project. So storage is cool and commercial in general because the pie is big enough, Michael, where if you structure it the right way, you can have it like you can take what's that saying, you can have your cake and eat it too or something along those lines. I got a wholesale fee and we kept equity in the project. But yeah, now really what I look for is 1 to 3 really solid deals every single year, which is, if you were to compare that to what I was doing in the wholesaling space, it was a volume game. We were wholesaling 50, 60, 70, 80 houses a year at our peak. And now I'm not looking to chase deals. I'm not looking for volume. I'm looking for 1, 2, 3 solid deals. And then I typically wholesale one or two on the side. So yeah, man, right now I think one of the great things about storage, brother, is that you don't need that many deals for it to have a significant impact on your situation.
Yeah, I like what you said about having your cake and eating it too, because if you're going to wholesale a house and you're going to tell your end buyer, I'd like to retain equity in the home, it's not going to work out. There's not enough money on the table with a single family home for that to work. But when you get into self storage or maybe some other commercial assets, there's definitely more to go around, especially if you have a long term vision. So I
Yeah.
love how that worked. I also like the volume change where you can do 1 or 3 a year and make a good living for yourself. So how are you funding them? Are you using small business loans, private lenders, equity partners?
Yeah.
How are you
Great.
funding the
I'm
purchase?
I'm so glad you asked this question because there's a lot of reasons that there's a lot of limiting beliefs people have about getting involved in storage. For some people, they're intimidated by the asset class because it's just bigger numbers. But if you were to ask me what is the single biggest limiting belief people have, it's around funding and financing storage deals. They have a belief that they need to have 6 figures or 7 figures in the bank to be able to buy these assets. And I can tell you with certainty that's just not the case because every single storage deal I've done, I have yet to use any of my own capital. So to answer your question specifically, my very first deal, I got a loan from the Small Business Administration, SBA, for 85% of the purchase price. And then I brought in an equity partner, right? Somebody who had the money but didn't have the time. And he funded the 15% that we needed, what's called the equity injection. My second deal was seller financing. We got 90% seller financing with some ridiculous terms. That's the deal that I own in Amelia Island. And then I've bought deals from raising private money, from working with JVs and equity partners. Like one of the cool things, Michael, that people need to understand is that everything that we have learned in terms of deal structure in the single family space can be applied to storage, right? It's not that much different. So the way that I used to seller finance and creatively structure deals in the single family residential world is the same way I've done in storage. The one caveat is SBA. SBA is able to finance and fund the purchase of a storage facility. Why? Because storage is a business with the benefits of real estate. If you went to SBA, to my knowledge, I don't think they're going to fund or finance the purchase of a single family residence.
Yeah, so you're running it's real estate with a business plugged into it, right?
I would say it's the reverse. It's a business with the benefits of real estate, right? So cash flow, appreciation, depreciation, all the tax benefits, but it's an actual business. It's a brick and mortar business.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to think about it. And because it's a business, a brick and mortar business with cash flow, then you can get stuff like small business association loans. Um, have you are you trying to build a portfolio of these things and then standardize the software and the branding and the signs and then create
No,
like one brand and then sell it to a REIT?
no. It's interesting you asked that question because the 80,000 square feet of storage that I bought and sold in Mississippi, that was my plan. I bought the first facility. I had an opportunity to buy the second one, which was 3 miles away. And my plan was to brand it and hopefully attract the eye of the REIT. You know, you mentioned the REIT, which is the Real Estate Investment Trust that own the public storages of the world, Extra Space. I wasn't quite big enough to attract the eye of those big players, but I did attract the eye of one buyer who owned a lot of storage. So that was my plan. But no, now I just look for secondary and rural markets that have strong fundamentals. Like there's certain things I look for, like medium household income above $50,000 a year. I look for obviously cities that have a growing population where there's jobs coming in. If I can find the right markets that have an undersupply of storage, then I'll buy them anywhere in the country. So to answer your question directly, no, I'm not specifically looking to buy in a particular region and just brand. Although that is a strategy that some friends of mine do.
Yeah, I know several people that they told me that were in self storage that that was their end game was to turn all these self storage units into like one big business, and then some bigger fish than them can come and take them
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. No,
So
that's definitely a strategy for sure.
yeah, so how are you finding deals in this space today?
Yeah, I'll tell you my three favorite ways. As you know, from being in the real estate game for a while, there's so many different ways to market and generate leads, right? So any way you can think of in single family applies to storage as well. My favorite are three. I'll give you the first two are free, and then the last one, a little bit of money, but very insignificant. Cold calling, right? So we jump on Google Maps. And I mean, literally within 2 minutes, I can find mom and pop storage facilities on Google Maps. And we just pick up the phone and we just have a conversation with them. It's super simple. The talk to people approach with storage. So cold calling is one. Relationships is another way that I've gotten deals. Relationships with brokers, relationships with wholesalers, and then my favorite way, probably the marketing channel that has been responsible for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of real estate deals I've done throughout the years, direct mail. Direct mail. I have done now 3 storage deals from direct mail, and still one of my favorite strategies to connect and buy real estate, to connect with owners, whether it's residential or storage.
Yeah, you can't fail with direct mail. I started in direct mail as well, and although marketing strategies have changed over the years, direct mail still works. I mean,
Yeah,
it's great. I love it.
yeah.
And cold calling can be very difficult on single family, but with self storage, I mean, I imagine it's much less volume of calls that you're making.
It's much less volume. And here's the thing, the conversation I have found, Michael, in my experience of now, 4.5 years or so, the conversation with these people is significantly different and easier in many ways than a conversation with a quote unquote motivated seller. Why? Why do I say that? They are business owners. So they're not emotionally attached to these assets. Most of the time, I'm not going to say always, but most of the time, there's not some type of physical distress or financial distress going on. I would say 90% of the time that we buy a facility from a storage owner, it's because they're getting ready to retire, right? They've owned and operated that business for years and they're just done. They're looking to get out of the business. And so that lends to a very different conversation than how I started when I was working with people that were in pre-foreclosure.
Yeah, I agree. It's when you're talking to a business owner, it's a completely different conversation.
Yeah.
So when you're sending direct mail, I'm very familiar with sending direct mail to single family, but what does the sequencing look like? What's the messaging look like? How many
Yeah.
properties are you targeting with
Yeah.
self storage?
Yeah. So my very first direct mail campaign, I think I sent out about 1,400 letters. So it's very, very targeted. Just to compare that, at my peak in our wholesaling business, we were spending twelve to $15,000 a month on direct mail. We were sending north of 35,000 letters and postcards every single month. In storage, we're targeting just a fraction of that. And then the sequencing is I've tested different things from sending out letters every single month to sending out every quarter. I've kind of landed in the middle. Every 2 to 3 months, I like to send out a direct mail letter. I like to keep it very conversational. One of the tips and strategies I share with students is, write the letter as if you were writing to a friend or family member. So I eliminate any type of jargon. I'm not using I want to buy your facility with cash and I want to close quickly. Like I'm not putting myself into that box because that's what most people do. And so, man, in fact, I can literally read you my letter, or I can share it with you, or just make that
Sure.
available for people that want to check it out.
Sure. Whatever you want to do.
Yeah, why don't I do this? I'll make it available for anybody, like no strings attached. I'll just make it available if anybody wants to check it out. I use that very letter to buy 2 facilities and wholesale another facility for $150,000 profit. That same exact letter. In fact, that storage that wholesale deal that I'm referencing for 150, I got a call from a lady who owned about a 20,000 square foot facility in a small town in Louisiana, and this was June of 2023. And Michael, she calls me and she's like, "Hey, Alex, I don't know you, but you sent me a letter almost 2 years ago, and I've been holding on to it because I knew that I was going to want to sell this facility at some point, and the timing is right. Are you still interested?" So I said, yes. We had a really good conversation. At the end, before I hung up, I said, "Hey, let me ask you a quick question. You mentioned that you've been holding on to my letter for almost 2 years." I said, why? Like, what prompted you to do that? And she goes, "Well, Alex, there's a couple things." I said, "Number one, I've gotten letters in the past and I usually throw them away, but your letter spoke to me because number one, it was very personable." That was the word she used. And she said, "Number two, you had a beautiful picture of your family at the bottom, and you actually asked me to keep the letter if the timing wasn't right." So I literally have a sentence at the bottom of the letter that basically says, and I'm gonna see if I can bring it up here in a second, but it basically says, "Hey, if the timing is not right, hold on to this letter and just give me a buzz whenever you want." And because of those three things, she literally held on to the letter for almost 2 years, called me, and ended up putting that facility in a contract for 400,000. Unfortunately, the seller's attorney didn't allow me to assign the contract, so at closing, we sold 100% of the interest in the LLC for the $150,000 profit.
Wow. Wow. What a win, man. What a win.
Yeah.
All from sending little pieces of paper in the mail.
That's it, man. It's not complicated. I think what's that saying, right? Business is easy, owners are complicated, and I think
That's right.
we tend to overcomplicate things. So, sometimes, Michael, people ask me like, "Hey, man, what's the best marketing strategy for storage, or what's this, what's that?" Like, it all works. The question is, are you going to work? Are you going to be consistent? Are you going to just stick to it? And I think that's where most people fail with any type of marketing campaign.
Have you ever just driven over, if the property's near you, have you ever just driven over and started a
So,
conversation with the
so
owner?
I have a coaching client, Casey, who bought his facility doing that very thing. There's a couple things I teach. Obviously, most people I would imagine know in real estate you can go driving for dollars. Well, one of the things I teach is flying for dollars. So we go to a particular market, and on Google Earth or Google Maps, you can just fly and you just look for the long rectangular buildings. But yeah, if you're in a market, a secondary or rural market, driving for dollars is a great way, and just stopping in. I live in Miami, so for me, that's not an option. I don't look for storage in big metropolitan cities like Miami. I'm targeting small secondary markets, rural markets. Think of population between 5,000 and 60,000 people. So in Miami, most of the storage facilities are owned by the REITs, the public storages, extra space. Like those aren't the facilities I'm going after.
Yeah, and so the reason he keeps bringing up REITs is because REITs will pay more than anybody else for an asset. So if they're
Yep.
interested in that area, you're unlikely to be competitive with those people. But it's great to sell your properties to REITs if
Yeah.
you ever get the
Well,
offer.
not just that, but if you happen to own a storage facility in a market where there's a REIT, it's very difficult to compete on price because they can slash their prices for peanuts, and then they play the game of 30 days later, then they'll jack up the customer's rates. Right. And so it's very difficult to push market rates and compete from a rent rate perspective when you have REITs in the same 3 to 5 mile radius.
Yeah, I never thought of that, Alex. Thank you for bringing that up. And the reason that REITs can do stuff like that is because they're funded from Wall Street. They're funded from investors who are taking very small returns over a long period of time.
Cheap money.
Yep, cheap money, and they can take losses for long periods of time in order to push competitors out of a market long term.
Yeah,
I
it's
never
a
thought
totally
of that.
different
Thank you for
strategy.
bringing that up.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
So, man, can you tell us what does real estate give you the freedom to do?
Spend time with family, travel, give back, do this, right? Like this is the type of stuff that energizes me. I was you and I were talking before we started recording that I've been hosting the Flip Empire show, which is in the process of being rebranded to Storage Wins. I've been doing that for in June. It's going to be 9 years. That's what real estate gives me the ability to do is passion projects, things that really interest me, running coaching communities, running masterminds, like connecting with people and leveraging real estate as a way to help them is what really, really like fulfills me and pours into me. Honestly, man, am I passionate about real estate? No, I like it. I'm good at it, but it's a vehicle, man. It's a tool that allows me to connect with people, and so yeah, man, those are some of the things real estate's been able to do for me.
Yeah, it's really changed my life as well. I'm real estate retired now. When we retired, me and my wife spent months traveling Asia. We did things in 1 year that would take a W-2 worker years to do.
Good for
So
you,
real
man.
estate's had a big impact on me as well. So I like to tell everybody on every episode that life has put us on a course, and it's usually it could be our school, it could be our family, could be the area we grew up in, but we don't realize it. We think we're acting in our own free real will, but we're really acting within a course that the world has set for us. And then some point along the way, people like me and Alex, our course was changed. And for most people, the course has changed due to a book they read. So I like to ask every guest on every episode, what book changed your course the most?
Well, I know that this one will resonate with you. So this little red book right here called The Go Giver,
Yeah.
Bob Berg and John David Mann. I've given out more copies of this book than I probably have most other books. That's a phenomenal book. You know, like I think it's Tony Robbins, and I see you looking for your Go Giver. So it's awesome that you have it. But you know, Tony Robbins, I think, is the one known for saying the quality of your life is determined by the quality of your relationships. And if you want to focus on having meaningful relationships with people, there you go, right there, man. Being a go
Boom.
giver to me is what it's all about. Looks like you got the soft. I have the hardcover here, so yeah, I got to get me one of those.
Once
Uh,
upon a time, I had a hardcover. Actually, a lot of my original books, full disclosure, I've given away. My original ones I gave away, and then I had to buy clean, unnotated replacement ones for them. So
nice.
I've just started buying the cheaper versions after I've given away so many
Cool,
dang
man.
books.
No, smart, smart. And then like, you know, every now and then, like I'll go back to old school Napoleon Hill stuff. So this is a book I picked up, dude. You know what I paid on Amazon for this thing? No, I'm sorry, eBay. I paid, I think it was $1.89. $1.89 for this book, which was published, I want to say in like 1965. 1965, this book was published. So yeah, man, I'm just constantly reading. I try to commit to
And
read.
what for those people that are not watching on YouTube,
Ah,
what's the name of the
yes.
book?
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. The Master Key to Riches by Napoleon Hill. So
Wow,
it's not the typical Think and Grow Rich. Napoleon Hill's got a lot of books that he's authored. The Master Key to Riches is this one.
wow, I've never read that one. I'm adding that to my list now.
Yeah,
As
that's one that when I show it, a lot of people have not heard of that one. But if you Google like Napoleon Hill books, you'll probably stumble across a few that you've never even heard of.
wow, if it's that old, it's probably not on Audible either. So I'll have to
I
actually
don't know.
read
I
the
haven't
paperback.
checked. That's probably not. I would guess it's
Yeah.
not. Yeah.
Yeah, one thing if I knew you were going to bring up Napoleon Hill, I would have got it out of my safe. But I've got this silver coin. It's a Napoleon Hill 1 ounce silver coin. They
Wow.
only made 500 of them, and then they destroyed the mold. And they destroyed the mold live on the internet to prove that there was only going to be 500 of them made.
Wow.
And it's in a plastic slab, and it's graded, and it has a crypto wallet on it as well. I'm not a crypto guy. I'm not into crypto, but it's cool that it also came with a crypto cold storage wallet on it as well.
I'd love to hear that story sometime of how you got your hands on that thing.
Yeah, just right place at the right time, man, and being around go givers and being around people that are doing big things, man. Just other real
Yeah.
estate people. I have to thank Jerry Norton for that one. Jerry
Oh,
Norton made
wow.
that one happen.
Very cool.
Yeah,
Very
and
cool.
so you gave us two books. We got a bonus book. Thank you for that. And so the last segment of the show, it's funny that we already talked about the Go Giver, but at the end of every show, I mentioned that we're big believers in the Go Giver here, and so I remind everybody on every episode that when you were born, your parents gave to you long before you were capable of giving back to them. If you work a traditional job, you work for 2 weeks before you collect your paycheck. And if you stand in front of a fireplace with wood in your hand and say, "Give me warmth first, then I'll give you this wood," it's going to be a very cold winter.
Mm.
So I like to ask every guest in every episode, what can you give to the audience today?
Yeah, man. I think what I can give to the audience is borrowing my belief and confidence in them that they can do it. I think too many people, I talked about limiting beliefs. I think everything starts with mindset. So, Jim Rohn, who I think was Tony Robbins' mentor, says you got to work more on yourself than you do at your job or at your career. And so I think what I can give to people is just uh, an elevated belief that they can do it and that it's okay if you don't have the answers and it's okay if you fail and it's okay if you look stupid and it's okay if insert whatever holds you back. That is the one thing preventing you from having the life you want, is just your belief in being able to do it. Right? Like we come up, what are our minds are meaning making machines, I think I once heard. Right? Like we give meaning to everything, and most of the time it's BS. It's just stories that our inner critic tells us. And so I think what I'd like to give people is just the confidence and the ability to just go out there and like, don't worry about, just figure out steps one. Don't worry about steps 4, 5, and 6. Like that will be revealed. Just like when I literally went to Kinko's and photocopied, dude, I'd never bought a property. And here I am essentially consulting people that are much older than me about what to do when they're behind on payments. Did I have all the answers? No, I didn't tell them I did. But I had trust and faith and confidence that because I was committed to the process, I was going to figure it out. And if I didn't have the answer, I'll tell them, but I'll be resourceful enough to get the answer. And then now I've learned. And you just continue, man. And it's just, life is a never ending journey of learning and growth. And so that's just the mindset that I choose to have.
Man, that is awesome. And then what can our audience give you today?
Well, I'll tell you what, Storage Wins, the podcast, putting a lot into that. So if you look it up I don't know when this is going to get released, but if you look it up by the Flip Empire Show, it should probably be rebranded to Storage Wins. So if you're interested in learning more about storage, I would say follow the podcast, subscribe. I'm putting out a lot more content on my YouTube channel. If you just search Alex Pardo, you should be able to find it. And then I referenced that letter. If you send a text the word storage, and then in parentheses put Michael H, so that I know that you heard me on Michael's show. Text storage Michael H to 305 318 6213. 305 318 6213. And we will send you over that same exact letter that I have sent to buy a lot of real estate throughout the years, including that 150K wholesale deal, that storage deal I talked about.
Man, that's awesome. Giving out the mail piece. Then you can just run down to Kinko's, photocopy it, and start putting it in envelopes and send it out.
Dude, it's not complicated, man. Just people are complicated.
It's absolutely not as complicated as anyone. I've never talked to a newbie that understood how easy this business was until after they've done a couple deals.
Yeah.
Never. Okay, and then where can people find you?
Yeah, man, I would say a couple different places. YouTube would be a great place. Again, youtube.com/Alex Pardo. And then on Instagram, at Alex Pardo25 is my handle on IG.
All right. And I'm on Instagram. I'm at Michael B Someone on Instagram. And I give out my phone number on every episode. Until someone abuses that, I'm going to continue to do that. Text me. Do not call me. I have so many spam calls every single day. My number is 832-301-9672. Michael Hong for the Be Someone podcast. And I was interviewing Alex Pardo. My God, I messed up your name again.
Alex Pardo, man. Yeah, Alex Pardo.
Alex Pardo, yet again. Wonderful. That's my weakness is names.
You're
And this
good,
is the
man.
Be Someone podcast. Until next time.
Take care.